stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. It's time. We have opportunity for the public to speak. Anyone out there? Does not look like anyone's taking this opportunity at this moment, so we'll move on to the agenda items. Item A, I will need a motion to authorize the sheriff to hire one new sheriff's deputy for the terms outlined in the contract between the Shiawassee County and the Teamsters.
Support.
I've got to move it with support. Any discussion?
So we have a deputy that is retiring in August, and this will be so that the sheriff can post and replace that position.
Okay.
And this
Anyone
one will
else?
be assigned to the road.
Sorry.
And this one will be assigned just for road patrol.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any no other discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that item will move on. Item B, I'll need a motion to approve the dual mode lighting from Lumen Serve in an amount of $24,975 with the additional assurance warranty and compliance monitoring.
Support.
I've got to move it with support. Discussion.
This is for 911 and a radio tower that they use, and it's maintenance and repair of it, but I will let Commissioner Garber, who sits on the board, talk about it. I was not at 911.
I do have a brochure here from the company in full color, so I didn't want to print out too many copies if anyone would like to see it. What it is that to be FAA compliant, we would have to repaint the towers, which would be ongoing. This would put us in compliance and at a pretty nominal cost. So if anyone would like to look at this now or after the meeting, let me know. It's a good move. We need to do it. Gary, you got anything else?
No. I'm on the board also, but we're the same thing. We need it.
All right. Any other discussion? Call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that item passes on. That is the end of our agenda items. We now have our second call to the public. It looks like Matthew Shepard has turned in a card.
That's the next meeting.
At the next meeting. Okay, that one is not for us then. Anyone else? Seeing no one, this meeting is adjourned.
Good job. Very good. Very good.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we are going to add an agenda item. It's going to be C, and that will be the medical examiner agreement. All right, Mr. Shepard, you are up for public comment.
Just real quick, just a couple short years ago, this county decided to not allow individuals back onto the Veterans Committee, yet one of the individuals was let back on. And then violation of Privacy Act, HIPAA, and Open Meeting Act, you guys do nothing nothing about that, but you wanna chastise Les Snyder, who has stood up for veterans' rights for numerous years, both as county commissioner and a veteran in this county for many other years. So why is it you wanna chastise him and not the other individuals? That's it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for public comment? Right, seeing none, we'll go right into our first agenda item. And, well, actually, before that, I think I'm gonna let MSU Extension go first, that way if you guys don't wanna stay for the rest. Mark, we did ask you to be here for an update, and I know you've prepared something for us, so.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Skyfall?
That was exciting. Well, thank you. I first want to start out by saying thank you for your guys' support. You guys have been longtime MSU supporters, and I really appreciate that support. Last year with the pandemic, it was challenging for a lot of people. It was very challenging for MSU and MSU Extension. When we first started with the pandemic, we were told to work from home, and that lasted for the first 2 or 3 months. And then we were told that we could travel to the offices on an as-need basis, but we had to go through a travel waiver process to get permission to go into the office. And starting in July, we were told that the secretary and 4-H staff could go in 1 day a week, but they couldn't go in the same day to do work that was not able to be done at home. And then in November timeframe, we were put on a pause for November, December, January. And in February, we were told we could go back in the office again 1 day a week. And then starting in May timeframe, we were told that we could go into the office for 2 or 3 days a week. Once again, every time we went in the office, we had to abide by the MSU compact. We had to do a travel waiver. We had to do a medical waiver. And there was a bunch of things that we had to jump through. In June, we were told that we could start requesting face-to-face meetings, but once again, it had to go through a formal process. And so I know that Nikki Hirsch here started putting requests to do face-to-face meetings, having face-to-face programs. There was things put in place for volunteers and what volunteers needed to do in order to have face-to-face meetings as well. June 28th, they came out that we no longer had to request travel waivers or go through the MSU compact or go through the medical screening process, that we could start having face-to-face again. They said that we could not do in-person service or walk-ins, but we could provide service on a appointment-only type basis, but we have been doing that pretty much all year anyway. We just had to make sure that was a contactless type pickup. So someone could drop something off in the office, we could go in the hallway, pick it up, or we could put something in the hallway for someone to pick up, or we could meet them somewhere and pass it, but it couldn't be face-to-face contact. So all of these guidelines were put down by MSU's president and the provost office. And as MSU employees, we had to follow those guidelines and we had to follow the MSU compact. Right now, we're able to do face-to-face programming. I know that our H&I staff is already setting up face-to-face programming with juvenile court and other partners. With the pivot, in some ways, we had more reach with some of our virtual programs than we did with our face-to-face program. Nikki Hirsch is an example. Our Zoom had a capacity up to 500 people. She put on a program and she had over 900 people sign up. She then did another program, had another 900 people sign up, and so our capacity for our Zoom meetings increased to over 1,000. Not all of those people reside here in Shiawassee County, but Nikki Hirsch was recognized as an outstanding person for pivoting and providing virtual programs, not only for residents in Shiawassee County, but across the state. I know that our H&I staff, Joe, was recognized for doing programs and providing support not only here in Shiawassee County but in other counties. Candy was recognized for the number of programs she was able to do virtually. The staff here in Shiawassee County, I have 75 staff members in the 5 counties
serve. Those 3 people got more accolades for the programming that they provided during the pandemic than any other county that I have. And so you have some great staff here. Above and beyond the 4 full-time staff that we have in the office, we have also a part-time secretary. And then there was an additional 18 individuals that provided programming here in Shiawassee County based on specific topic or content type needs. So the services, because of the virtual opportunities, expanded quite a bit. Last year when I took a look at the report, we had over 80 programs that were offered here during the pandemic that were not offered in previous years because of the capacity issues for people to do face-to-face programming. With that said, there's a lot of conversations now about continuing with the virtual programming because we've seen our reach expand, but we also know that our niche is that face-to-face programming, and we have a lot of partners that want that face-to-face programming, and we're able to do that moving forward. But we've also identified some programs that work very well with the hybrid approach. And so we may do the first session face-to-face, 1 or 2 sessions virtually, a face-to-face, 1 or 2 sessions virtually, and then the last session a face-to-face type session. Our job is really to improve lives through the educational process and providing resources to community members. Our job is also to be a good partner in the communities in which we serve, and a lot of the organizations that we work with are partners, and we work with them based on what their needs are, what their wants are, and what works best for them. And so looking at how we can best meet the needs of the residents, I think there's going to be a variety of different programming type options moving forward based on some of the experiences that we learned through this pandemic. So I know today I had several meetings, and a lot of those meetings were talking about the fairs coming up this summer and how we're interacting with the fairs. I know our staff is excited about getting back to the fairs. I know a lot of students were disappointed last year with not being able to participate in some of the fairs. But once again, we did the best job that we could. If you take a look at our numbers is actually very well compared to face-to-face type programming. But I also know a lot of people really didn't appreciate all the virtual and really wanted face-to-face programming. Unfortunately, because of the guidelines in the MSU Compact, we were not always able to provide the face-to-face programming. So I don't know if you guys have any specific questions, but I wanted to do a year recap and review and just sort of talk. I heard some rumors that our office was not open. Our office has been open the whole time, but not in the way that some of you may consider an office being open as far as walk-in type service. But as far as services to the community, our staff went out of their way literally and figuratively to meet people at restaurants, to meet people at grocery stores, to meet people at their homes, to get people what they needed when they needed it, because our office was not open. So in some ways, the customer service was one step greater, because people didn't have to drive to us, we were willing to drive to them and meet them where they were at. So staff have been in and out of the office. I know health department is here. They called, they asked if they could use their space for some of the vaccinations. I worked with my staff, so my staff worked around the health department staff, so we were not in the office when the health department was in our offices. Our office is a beautiful office. We just moved last year, just prior to the pandemic. We put about $20,000 into that office space because a lot of what we do with H&I and SNAP education is cooking, and cooking matters and preparation of food. We need that space for that purpose. So just any space doesn't work for MSU, and when we looked at movement from our old location to this location, we took about $20,000 to upgrade our current space so that we could do the H&I programming, which is one of the big aspects that we provide to the residents here in Shiawassee. So, does that help? Does that answer any questions? The other thing I want to say too, real quick, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
We are on a millage. We get about $139,000 from the millage. But when you take a look at the money we get from the county, my job is to leverage the dollars that we get from the county to bring in state funding, to bring in federal funding So our budget is not $139,000. Our budget is closer to $1 million. The two staff members here that you see today, H&I staff, they are federally funded. They are grant funded. They are not funded through county dollars. When you take a look at our health person who's full-time person, they are not funded through county dollars. They are funded also through state and federal dollars. When I take a look at the 15 other people that came into this county to provide services to residents who needed those services at the time that they needed them, those staff also are not funded through the county dollars. The two positions that are funded through the county MOA is our 4-H staff, who's full-time staff, who worked full-time through the whole pandemic and had some of the highest numbers in the whole state, as well as our 20-hour office manager, who is funded through this position. And the office manager continued to maintain the office functions as well as provide support to the full-time staff members, even though everyone was working virtually. So I wanted to clarify that as well, if that helps.
It does, and I do not doubt the dedication of your staff. I've seen it firsthand. But what concerns me is that it isn't a rumor that the office was closed. On June 16th, I went to the health board meeting, and there was a sign saying that your office was closed. And I think that it was not reflective of the work your staff does. Because I did take a picture of it, sent it to Dr. Boggs, and I'm going to quote from it. It says that during the county closure, which we weren't closed, staff will be checking emails and voicemails sporadically. That's not how your staff works, so why was that sign posted?
So that sign was posted on March 13th or whenever we got the notice that we were going to be closed. My understanding is that sign was on an outside door, not on the inside door. We changed our signs 4 different times through the pandemic. For whatever reason, and I can't answer it, I have no excuse for it, that sign on the outside door was not changed and or updated when all the other signs were changed and updated. And so there were other signs that said staff are in the office periodically. If you need something, call, make an appointment, whatever. Staff are in the office 2-3 days a week. Staff's in the office 3-4 days a week. There were other signs that were posted. That is the very original sign that we received on a Friday that everything was being shut down, and so that sign was put up on a Friday. We had to learn how to transfer phone calls, receive phone calls, emails, everything else. That's why it said sporadically in that original notice. That original notice was
From
16.
2020?
Yeah,
Is it-
March.
So it was
March.
still there in June
Yeah,
of 2021?
and I know that Martina changed the sign several times. I know Nikki changed the sign several times. I know I was in the office 4 or 5 times, but I don't remember seeing that sign. So my understanding is that sign was on the outside door. That sign was taken down, and they did put the updated sign there. But the signs on the inside doors that are the MSU offices, those signs were updated in June. They were updated again in August or September. They were updated again in November when we went into pause. They were updated again in March, and then they were updated again in June. And now, I mean, September 2nd, everyone's going to be back at the office. We can do face-to-face, we can do walk-in, everything else starts September 2nd, because that's when the university goes back to full speed.
I just think that the sign on the outside was, if I saw a sign on the outside of the door that says it's closed, I'm not gonna go in, and that's gonna stop me right there.
Yeah, and
So it's unfortunate, because again, that's not reflective of
Right.
what the work your staff was doing.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And I do know that there was things updated on Facebook, and there was also things updated on Facebook. So when things were updated, everything should have been updated, and for whatever reason, that was missed.
So on September 2nd, then we can have 4-H meetings in person, we can get back to that mentoring.
They're doing
I
that,
see
they're
two
doing that
mentors
now.
here that-
They're doing that now. And
Okay.
so we're doing face-to-face meetings, we're having we've been having meetings in the office since June 1st. Whenever that directive came down, we just had to go through a process to request face-to-face meetings. But Nikki's been having meetings in there, other people's been having meetings in there, 4-H can have meetings. It's MSU, because of its complexity or bureaucracy or whatever, has several different steps that we had to follow and go through as MSU employees. So my staff, our staff had to follow the MSU compact, they had to follow the directives that were being put down by the president and the provost of the university.
So on September September 2nd, then what happens?
So September 2nd, we can start having walk-in type service, and we're back. I mean, I was in the office today, and all 4 staff was there today. So they were there all day. I was there all day. We just can't have walk-in service right now. It's service by appointments. I do know that there was 2 people in the office with appointments today. It's just a process that MSU has laid out that we are following.
Okay, does anybody have anything else? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
And thank you to
Appreciate
Joe
it.
and Keaton for being here.
I do have a quick question. We're not prepared to open. We still haven't received any of the plexiglass that we've asked for. So that's one small thing that helps us is if we can get those things installed.
Okay, that's still a thing?
We just kind of got missed on that to-do list.
Yeah, and I apologize, it's, everybody else has been open, so I think that you guys did kind of get missed on that, so we will get buildings and grounds to take a look at that.
Thank you.
And thank you for all you guys do. All right, we will now move into our agenda items. Vaccine and COVID update. Larry.
First thing I want to know is how do I win this millions of dollars for my vaccine?
Huh?
How do I win the millions of dollars for my vaccine?
So did you register?
I'm registered.
On the registration. Okay, so
I'm ready
there's
to go.
multiple drawings, and we encourage you to register if you've had the vaccine, because you have a chance to win cash prizes, and if you're a student, you have a chance to win college scholarships up to $50,000 for the students that got vaccinated. So it's a little incentive to do it. I want to give a brief report today. Thanks for having me. It's a monthly thing. But first I want to start out, it's pretty much good news right now. The trend is continuing with the case numbers being single digits over the last 5 weeks. So we haven't cracked 10 cases in over a month. We've gone to our weekly reports is now every 2 weeks. Our positivity rate is under 3%, which is considered controlled. Kind of benchmark that we look at is like 5%. And the hospitalizations are fairly low right now, down to the most recent count I saw was 2, with 1 in ICU. So positive things. The vaccine numbers for the county have plateaued after a pretty rapid start. We're at about 52%. The state's around 62%. We're at about 52%. It's somewhere around the middle, higher end of the middle. That equates to about 31,000 individuals have been vaccinated out of our target population of 59,000. So we're continuing to work on that. We've transitioned away from the mass clinics to smaller, more targeted clinics and businesses. I've got a walk-in clinics this Thursday, the 15th, from 2 to 5, and then the next 2 Tuesdays from 1 to 4, the 20th and the 27th. We have all 3 vaccines available at the health department. We've been the main agency or organization, if you will, that has done the most vaccines in the county of everyone that did them. And I do want to take a moment to recognize a couple organizations that are here that did help us. One is Pleasant View. When I asked for vaccinators, they stepped up. They provided them to us on more than one occasion, and there were times when we really needed it. And there are many agencies and organizations that did not help. So I'd like to recognize them. And also I would like to mention, as Mark said, MSU Extension shared their space with us. And that was really helpful for clinics at the health department for the overflow and for the monitoring. So that was really helpful also. Other than that, I'll take a few questions, but we're trending in the right direction. With regard to schools, all plans are a go for a return to normal. So as long as everything continues the way it's going, it's looking like normal school for the fall. So that's exciting.
So normal as in
Normal right now.
no
normal,
social distancing?
normal
no
right
masks?
now.
No masks.
Normal right now. No masks. Right now the CDC just stick to a plan that is not enforcing unless case numbers increase, then we might look at doing some different things. But we're in a lot better place this year with the virus than we were last year going into the school year. So we're already working with them on that. I feel like I just got done with the school year, but we're already starting plans for next year. Any other questions?
A lot of businesses were, the mask requirement, depending on whether you were vaccinated or not. Do we have such requirements in our county buildings or whatever? Do we differentiate between
No, we're not asking for your vaccine card. And I would hesitate to guess that I think most businesses aren't doing that. Some businesses, as a business choice, can continue to request that people wear masks. That's up to the business.
We don't have signs that say if you're not vaccinated.
No, not at all. Not at all. So my thing is I prefer voluntary rather than mandating. So that's kind of my take on it.
Thank you. I do appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thanks, guys. All right. I would accept a motion to approve the addendum to the 2019 Mid-State Health Network Substance Use Disorder Oversight Policy Advisory Board Intergovernmental Agreement.
Moved.
Thank you. What do we have on that, Dr. Bauer?
So you have a memo from corporate counsel describing what this is specifically. It's an oversight board related to funds that go prepaid inpatient health plan for 21 Michigan counties, and its partnership with community mental health agencies in these counties provides mental health services to adults and with severe persistent mental illness, children with severe emotional disturbances, individuals with intellectual development disabilities, and individuals with substance abuse disorders. So this is pays for medical services essentially for those that don't have it, that fall in those categories. It's a flow through of money. Is that a good summary?
Yes, yeah, pass through.
All right. Any discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? And that will move forward. Agenda item C, I would entertain a motion for the medical examiner agreement.
So moved.
I will support that. Do we have any discussion? This was added last minute. Looks like an unavoidable increase.
Yeah, 4% increase from the previous contract, so it's $189,000. Now this is different from the medical, what do you call it? Yours?
Medical director.
Medical director for the health department. This is essentially the county coroner. So they do autopsies, testing results to find out what people died from. This came about, this expires at the end of this month. We recently made contact with them because we had a unknown individual that had to be processed by them. So they handle a lot of different things.
All right.
We need to squeeze them.
Well,
Going up.
it is going up.
And
It
every
went
time
up
we lay back,
4%.
they say, oh, they have no problem with it. More.
It is
I mean, I
4%.
see, they're in a network with a lot of counties. I think, it's done by Sparrow. So, I mean, they're in a network with a lot of counties. We should be able to, I doubt these other counties like Genesee and Livingston and Ingham are going up as much as we are.
I'll find out for you for Thursday's meeting.
This is unbudgeted.
The 4% would be for half of the year. So essentially
I'm
it's
no on
a 2%.
unbudgeted items.
Anyone else? All right, all those in favor of moving this forward signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? And that passes. Before we go to our last call to the public, I just wanted to take this opportunity to discuss the incident we had with the senior center. And I know we have Commissioner Webster and Commissioner Holzhausen that serve on that board. Is there anything we need to know?
I will let you know that tomorrow night, Sheikha Aubert from BAAA will be here to answer questions. She has a timeline, and sort of all of the incidents is still under investigation, of course, but she will be here tomorrow night to share that information with you.
Okay, good. I felt like maybe there was a lack of transparency there.
Well, Commissioner Holzhausen actually mentioned it in his report last month at the meeting, so at that point, that was pretty much all the information we had, so, yeah, it was
I brought
pretty
it up,
new then.
nobody said anything.
Yep, June 17th meeting, he said it, so.
All right.
And it's been reported to every law enforcement agency that it needs to be reported to, and ASA and all of the people involved with the funds that were affected, so I think it was quite transparent.
All right. Second call to the public. Anyone? Mr. Shepherd again.
Redress. Just going back a little bit, if we have a privacy act that we have to follow, then individuals on different committees have to abide in that same act. Whether it's divulging information of a personal type of individuals being discussed or whatever. If you don't take care of it now, then who's going to take care of it after you're done with your terms? And I, for one, will never be vaccinated. I feel sorry for those that have bought the whole facade of the COVID that could have been treated without a vaccine. That is probability of 3 to 5 years killing some people, especially the elderly. I said, I will never be vaccinated. I will never support such an issue of mandatory vaccines. And this idea of going door to door asking people, that's a violation of HIPAA right there and your privacy. So I hope this county doesn't ever encourage that either. The state as a whole has gone way past its constitutional guidelines with what our governor has done. It's caused many businesses, over 9,000, to shut the doors permanently because of this COVID, which could have been treated by hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin or other remedies that are natural, like tonic water and zinc. Those should be the promoted aspects, not a vaccine that is killing people and maiming them for life. Back in 1976, the swine flu vaccine was halted after 58 deaths. How many thousand more do we need in the U.S. to die because of a vaccine that was not properly administrated and tested before it was put out to the public? Thank you.
Thank you. Just to clarify, Larry, we're not going door to door, are we?
We are not.
Okay, I didn't think so. Thank you. All right.
I just want to go back real quick, if I can.
Yes.
I think this board needs to know about the SCOA stuff. And I just felt like our exchange a minute ago was a little hostile. I mean, the rest of us board members are entitled to that information, whether how brief or how vague your report may have been last month. I find it hard to believe that the rest of us sat here and just went, oh, okay, business as usual, when it was mentioned that the place was scammed for nearly $50,000 in a fraudulent AHC. So I just think we had there's a little bit of attitude from maybe the members that sit on there, but I think we're owed an explanation as to why and what happened. This type of misfeasance has happened here at the county before. We want to make sure it does not happen again, and any money that we send. Attorney Painter Dr. Boggs and I got a call with the director, and I informed her until she provides such detail and such information as to the safeguards of our money from our taxpayers, I wasn't gonna send them a check from our millage. Not until it's safeguarded and we know exactly, that IT, unfortunately, these things happen, somebody's accountable, somebody has to be held accountable. These things don't just happen. When mistakes happen with people's money, that results in somebody losing their job, unfortunately. So until we either figure out the IT situation, the staff there, my direction to them was that I would not be issuing them their money. We're not obligated to issue our money from that millage to this Council on Aging. We can issue it to any provider of senior services. So I think on our initial inquiry to this whole thing, they were very hostile with us as well. When all we wanted to do was ask questions. I got an email that I was copied on that was responded to, that neither one of you commissioners were on. And I thought, what is this? And it says, fraud. So I simply asked Dr. Boggs, do we know anything about this? Was this county money? No, it was not Shiawassee County directly money. But the idea is the VAAA is not a group of a bunch of investors and rich people that give all their money. It's a private firm. That is taxpayer federal dollars as well. So that all comes from the taxpayer. No, maybe it's not. It is not our direct one from the Shiawassee County millage. But our move is going to be to hold that money until we see some safeguards that are in place. We had a lot that we had to do when we gave away $50,000. So I think until I see something, and I just hope that nobody has their emotions or personal opinions in the way. We just want to know what happened, and hopefully it doesn't happen in the future.
Well, and if I can respond to that, if I
I'd
may.
like to respond. I responded last month and I just said it, and that's all I knew, and nobody asked any questions, so what am I supposed to do? And I didn't know any more about it than that, so.
Right. Dr. Boggs, you had no idea?
I did not know about any of
Nobody
it.
asked me any questions.
It was under investigation. We shared the information we had at the time. We're still getting information about it as
Yeah.
well.
We're having a
And that's not, we're not saying anything about
Yeah.
what, we're just saying
Yeah.
we should be able to know and hear and ask questions
Absolutely.
without anyone getting defensive. That's all I'm saying. That's all my point.
Go ahead, I don't know anything about it myself.
I know.
Yeah, I didn't either, Dr. Boggs.
Well, I knew about it, and I said something, there was nobody asking detailed questions about it because I didn't know.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
if I may. So, when it does come to the millage-related items, because of the way that it is set up as a reimbursable, which means that they submit receipts to us. So the board will need to make some decisions because, in this month, because there is a reimbursable for $24,000 sitting out there that they have turned in slips to, and that has not been processed yet.
That'll have to be a
My 2
board
cents worth.
vote then?
Well, I mean, I think that's what you guys need to decide what you want to do.
Commissioner Broder.
As we discussed this and looked into it, I spent my career in IT, and I can tell you, like any other form of security, whether it's how much police you have, your court system, your alarm system on your buildings, there is no specific amount. You have to decide it, not just here, but in all of our systems. We always have to decide how much risk we are willing to take. We could spend our entire budget on security if we wanted, I guarantee that. We could have, hire lots more police, and we could have, a huge jail, and we could have incredible IT security. Even then, it wouldn't be 100% because things would still happen. So there is no correct answer for our security needs on our IT. There are only trade-offs, and you try to spend your money wisely. You try to estimate the risk. It is an ever-changing target and a very difficult question about what is needed for IT security. And I think that this might just open up our making sure it's not an emergency or anything, but we keep that in mind about the evolving threats, because while it happened to this agency and it may have exploited a certain amount of human tendency, which often these things do, there is a combination of security you buy and training of your personnel on how to identify. Very often these things can easily be prevented by someone picking up a phone and checking into it by recognizing what they call phishing sites, a number of things. It's a very difficult question, and you almost have a demand for fraud in that how much do I really want to spend and what is acceptable to me? Which is said that all sorts of safeguards and limits, but there's never going to be a perfect answer, and I would not be surprised in today's environment if we find this again. So the heads will comment is not necessarily one I agree with. It may be somebody who did not follow protocol on these things, or it may be protocols that we did not specifically put into place, and we'll have to correct. So that's my 2 cents worth. Let's keep in mind as we look into this and the larger picture, what we really need as far as security. It's a little bit of a wake-up call for us all.
We've had that wake-up call here.
Okay.
We've been through this. And this is,
Going through it again.
and our finance director resigned.
Oh, okay.
Our
You have
previous
more
finance.
time than I do. I missed some.
But what happens
It
is
was-
it's
it was-
human
it was
error. It's
everywhere.
human error. More than anything, it's human error is how these things happen.
Well,
And it's
and-
breakdown of policy, exactly what you're saying, not following exactly what we should be doing, not safeguarding our machines, not properly being in the office where maybe our network is more secure, maybe being on a machine that's outside of our network that we're trying to VPN into our system, which maybe not as secured. A lot of this stuff happened with the homework, the being from home, that you're on compromised machines, that becomes human error. That's not.
And human error is even harder to fix
Oh, yeah.
than simply closing your gates and having passwords and all that. It's the toughest one. There's some fascinating stories out there about how hackers have gotten in simply using human tendencies and our tendency to find a thumb drive, in the parking lot and say, hey, I wonder what's on this, and plugging it into the computer. That's how the Iranian nuclear program was destroyed. John and I were talking about that. They had this unbelievably brilliant virus, but no way to get it into the Iranian nuclear facilities. So they just found out where the employees lived and worked and went to the bar and stuff, and they spread this virus in little thumb drives, knowing eventually somebody's going to pick one up and say, I wonder what's here. Boom. Virus is in. So those are the tough things to stop.
Well, I won't fall for that now, so, yeah.
Okay, I've taken up enough time on that. Sorry.
No, that's
Well,
good.
and this involves not so much this board. Yes, there are some decisions we have to make, but there's a Council on Aging board and the VAA board who are working very aggressively to figure out why this happened, how this happened. This was a transaction between the two of them. And so they're working, with council and with investigators and with law enforcement and with IT people to figure out how this happened, why this happened, and what we can do better to tighten things up. So both of those boards are actively pursuing that, and both of those directors have been working on that. So,
But an ounce of prevention.
Yeah.
and they'll keep changing. The hackers will keep changing. There will always have to be, updates all the time because they'll come up with new tricks. So,
All right, have we exhausted
Did
this?
you want to say?
Yeah, I guess.
No, I was thinking of Painter. I didn't want him to go into another.
Well, I would say I'm not going to talk about the land bank, I promise. We do have 2 commissioners who sit on both of these boards, and so I foresee that there could be a vote at some point where we may run into a conflict of interest. And I think it's probably too preliminary to say any more than that, but if we get to that point, I will alert you to it, and we may have to take that into account.
Oh, we shouldn't vote then, maybe?
Well, it depends on what the vote is, so I'm not going to say no at this
I don't
point.
know what the vote's gonna be either, so.
That makes 2 of us.
appointed to boards, and we all vote on issues related to these boards. So I'd be interested to see how that would be different than how conflicts would be created in any other situation.
Because of money. Most of those boards don't involve money from the county, this one does. And so,
I think that, don't they all? Isn't that why we're assigned to those boards, like community mental
Most-
health department?
well, some of the boards handle money, most of them are advisory. The board that you sit on is the board, if I'm not mistaken, that actually runs SCOA.
right? SCOA and I also serve on VAAA,
Okay, so SCOA gets millage money from the county.
right?
So because we have money going from entity A to entity B, and you sit on the boards that control both entity A and entity B,
Yep,
there's a potential for conflict there. I'm not saying there is a conflict, I'm saying there's a potential for conflict, and so we need to be aware of that.
right.
Same
But
way-
what I'm saying
Same way
is-
with health and wellness?
Yeah,
Health and wellness.
health and
the other
wellness
one.
is the same.
I'm on that board,
Health
too.
department is the same.
Health department's not.
Most of the boards we
Um,
serve on,
They're only advisory.
okay.
Nine
Health
one's
departments.
advisory.
They're all advisory boards. So the
Yeah,
final
so
decision is made by this board.
How
Most
can
of
we
those.
remove our two seated on that committee because we stopped paying them? Can you do that? If they say, oh, Gary and Marlene sat on that, they stopped sending us money, so let's remove them from this committee. Why should Shiawassee County have seats if they're not gonna give us money? Can they do that?
I've never seen their charter, so I don't know what the rules are for their board
I
membership.
just wonder how fast this will escalate.
Well, I know
Not very
that-
fast because they want our money.
Well, I do know that our contractual agreement between SCOA and Shiawassee County expired 2 years ago and has not been renewed. So.
The millage does not mention SCOA,
Well, the millage.
so they are not
the millage-
entitled to the millage.
Villages generally do not specify an agency that, MSU did being the exception, but most of them do not specify a agency, they specify a cause, and then the board determines the use of that money in alignment with the cause.
Correct.
Now, during our audit work, Tracy pointed out to me that we did not have a current agreement with SCOA back in March, and Ryan and myself looked at the old examples that we had from the files and worked and redrafted one, but we had not submitted it yet before all of this happened. So currently, there is not an agreement between SCOA and the Shiawassee County. There's a draft one that we worked on.
So what's that mean?
Nothing at the moment, just that there's not a formal agreement. That, and there should be at some point.
So
We
you
need to,
can hold the money forever then, right?
you know, but we need to.
I just thought I'd ask.
No, we need to get a new formal agreement in place and signed and figure out what that formal relationship looks like. Because the other one expired in 18 or 19, Tracy?
I believe it expired in 19.
Do we have the same one with health and wellness too?
They have a tenant agreement with us for the bonds, and that's the one that that one is current and up to date, and that's the one that we'll be amending they'll be amending it at their board meeting, and then we have to amend it at our next board meeting to sell the bonds. That one is current. We just reviewed that one.
All right, so we have plenty to do.
Crack the whip.
That's right. All right, anything else for this committee?
You guys gotta shape up.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Just wait for that.
On the